Debbie Stoller. Welcome to Stitch and Bitch TV. Knitting is really just a matter of pulling one loop of yarn through another loop of yarn. It's really not that different than what you do every morning when you tie your shoes. But although it sounds pretty easy, and it is, it can be a little rough going at first. So before we even start, I just want to tell you, if you're just beginning, be patient with yourself. That's really the most important thing. It'll be worth it. Now, before you can start pulling loops through other loops, you have to get that first set of loops onto a knitting needle. That process is called casting on. There's a couple of different ways to do it. I'm going to show you my favorite way. This way is called the long tail cast on. Sometimes it's called a double cast on. And this is how it's done. You start out by pulling up a long tail of yarn, right? Long tail cast on. And then you make a slip knot. Wrap the yarn around two fingers and make them cross. This one crosses over. Then go put your fingers in there and pull that loop through. That's it, a slip knot, right? You put the slip knot on a knitting needle and you tighten it up a little bit. The knot slips. That's why it's called a slip knot. Okay, now we're going to do some finagling to get our yarn into this hand in a really kind of a fancy way, but don't worry about it. The long tail has to be on the left of you, and the ball end needs to be on the right. And then you just put your pointer finger on that slip knot to keep it in place. Now, I come from behind from these two strands of yarn with my hand, my left hand, and I close my bottom three fingers. And then I take my thumb and my forefinger from behind and open that like a little curtain. The strand that's over my thumb is still that long tail, and the strand that's over my pointer is still that ball side of the yarn. Then you take this needle and you bring it down. For some reason, that's a part that people, when they're starting, forget. So now you have something that looks kind of like a slingshot in your hand. So what you do is you put your needle up through this loop that's on your thumb. Then the strand that's on your pointer finger goes around. And then the loop on your thumb goes up and over. And then you just snug it up. We're not making a stranglehold, just snug. Okay, so come down. Go up into the loop that's on my thumb. Pointer finger goes around, wraps it around, and then the loop on my thumb goes over and off, and we snug it up. And I just put my thumb and forefinger back into the same position. And eventually, that gets so comfortable in your hand that you can just whip these cast-on stitches a mile a minute. Trust me, you'll get there. Now, once you've got a bunch of loops on your needle, you can actually start to knit. There's a couple of different ways to knit. There's English style and continental style, and there's combination knitting. I'm just going to show you English style now. You start by taking the needle with all the stitches on it in your left hand, and I hold it like a key, like I'm holding a key to open a door, right? My palm is sort of over the needle. Then you have to take this yarn in your hand in kind of a special way. I take my pinky, wrap it around, close my lower three fingers on it, and then over the top of my pointer finger so that this yarn can sort of feed off there. And another solution for that might be a little easier at first is to bring it in front of your pinky, over your ring finger, in front of your middle finger, and over your pointer, and close those lower three fingers. And you want the yarn to sort of run off your finger right there. Now, the right hand needle, I put under my armpit, which isn't what most people do, but it is the way that people knit in Holland, and my family's from Holland. This is how I learned to do it. You could also just hold it in your hand, but I really think it helps things a lot to put it under your armpit. And I take a hold of that right hand needle, again, like a knife or like a key. I'm just sort of holding it underneath my palm. This yarn needs to be behind your needles when we're doing a knit stitch, not here, so there. And we start by inserting this needle into this first loop on the other needle. We insert from left to right and from front to back. It's almost like this needle is showing you the direction that you need to be inserting your needle, that way. And you make a little X. Then you take the yarn that's on your hand here and you wrap it around counterclockwise. This is the loop that we're going to pull through the other loop. Then you bring that loop back to the front through the other loop that was on your needle, and then push that old loop off. So you insert this needle through that first loop on the yarn to make an X, wrap the yarn around counterclockwise, bring that loop back to the front, make an X again, and then push that stitch off the needle. Now you're not going to pull it off like that because that's going to make it all stretched out. You just push it off, like I kind of think of it as like pushing a Pez out of a Pez dispenser or like a Certs out of a tube of mints. You just sort of push it off. There's a rhyme that's often used to help children to learn to knit and to learn that there's 4 steps involved in every knit stitch. I kind of adjusted it a little bit. In my book, I have a different rhyme, and it goes like this. Go in the front door and grab your scarf, right, because we're wrapping that yarn around, and then come back outside before the cat barfs. That stitch falling off is the cat barf, right? So go in the front door, grab your scarf, come back outside before the cat barfs. There's one other thing I want to point out about how you do this, because the hardest part really is bringing that strand of yarn back out through the loop with you. And here's how I make that happen. Insert your needle in from left to right. That part's easy. Wrap the yarn counterclockwise. That part's easy. It's bringing that new loop to the front and out the old loop that can be kind of tricky. And the way I do it is I just run this needle around and then to the front. It's sort of that these needles are always in contact with each other. What I'm doing is I'm taking my needle and I'm sliding it down like this. It never loses contact with the other needle, and then back up. That way that little strand cannot jump off. There's no place for it to go. And that's how to knit. This will take you quite a while at the very beginning when you're first learning to do it. It also took me a long time when I was first learning. And you knit all the stitches off the left needle onto the right needle. When you come to the end, you've knit all the stitches off your left-hand needle. You just change hands. Get everybody positioned again, holding that needle like a key, holding this yarn in whatever way is comfortable, holding this needle under your palm. And we're just going to start again and just go back and forth like that forever until it feels comfortable. And that's casting on and knitting. For more information on how to start knitting, check out Stitch and Bitch, the Knitter's Handbook.